This video has been a very long time in coming. Matter of fact, the origins or genesis of what you're going to see here really begins in the summer of 2021. At that time, I don't remember if it's a book I acquired or if it's a book that I saw that the Loma Linda Heritage Institute, which you're going to see here in a minute, acquired. But this is what I do know. I've got this book here, and I have since picked up a much nicer copy. It's called Breakfast, Dinner, and Supper in 5 parts. It's edited by J.E. White and a Mrs. M.L. Wanless, and it's by the J.E. White Publishing Company. So I thought, okay, that's great. Now, the book, like I said, is edited by J.E. White. Who's J.E. White? Let's just do a quick review. James Edson White. Born in, you can see, July of 1849. He died in 1928. Frequently known, you can see, as Edson White. He was a publisher, which you just saw one of his books that he published. Second son of Ellen and James White. What reason this video was being made, and it got my attention in the summer of 2021, is what's on the title page of this book. Let me show you that title page. Look at that title page. It's edited by J.E. White, MD. MD? I thought, MD? Medical doctor? Now, in the summer of 2021, I'm still pretty new to Adventism. I've only been studying Adventism for about 8 months. But I knew enough to know that I didn't think it was likely that Edson White was a medical doctor. Might be wrong. I can only, I can only talk about what I can prove, not what I think. All right, so that's what I think. I didn't think he is, but I might be surprised. He may be a medical doctor. So my first expedition in doing research was, well, you know, obituaries, they talk about a person's life and their great achievements. I thought certainly in Edson White's obituary, which you already saw, he died in 1928, they would talk of his wonderful educational accomplishment and his contribution to humanity with his medical doctor degree. So I found his obituary in the July 5th, 1928, remember he died in June, so in July 5th, 1928 Review and Herald that you can see here. Here's the obituary, it's on page 22. The whole obituary is boxed in red, which you now see here in its relative pieces. And you know what you will not find here? You will not find any discussion of him going to any school, getting any kind of medical doctorate degree. It's just not there. It's on the screen for you. Either go get the magazine if you want to check me out, or stop the video, go back and blow up the page and read the article. It's not there. MD doesn't show up in this obituary. Doctor doesn't show up in this obituary. Where he went to school. Okay, so now I'm suspicious. It's not in his obituary. Well, who better to ask than the Loma Linda Heritage Research Center? They had a copy of this book, and I got a feeling that's why I think I first learned of it. They list acquisitions that they recently get. Oh, look at this book we got, and then they do it again in 3 or 6 months. Oh, look at these other stuff we got. Well, this was one of the books that they showed on their acquisition. So look here, here's their Heritage Center site. So they had a contact us page, and they had an email address. Okay, so I sent them an email. First one on May 11th, second one on May 17th. I said, I want to know, you got this book, you've listed it in your acquisitions, and I gave them the title, and I by now have my own copy of it. And yeah, it does say James Edson White, MD. I just asked him, what school did he go to for this medical doctorate degree? May 11th, no response. May 17th, no response. Okay, now I'm growing impatient. So I do this. On June 29th, I send certified mail. There's a copy of the letter. And here's a copy of the letter that I sent, which was actually on July 1st. Actually received by them. Sent on June 29th, received by Loma Linda. They got my letter, which was essentially the same as the email you just saw. And then a few days later, on July 6th, now I get a message from the Loma Linda Research Center. And look with me here, what it says. It says, James Edson White did attend and graduate from a medical college. The college was called the Hygienic Therapeutic College, located, you see, in New Jersey. He went there with his brother Willie and the Kellogg brothers, Merritt and John. They attended this college in 1872 and obtained a quick medical degree. Notice what he said, quick medical degree. They didn't get a medical degree, they got a quick medical degree. That's going to become important later on. Second paragraph. Before Edson finished the course, right, which was just 6 months in length, he sent a letter home saying, oh, this guy's a villain and this school is humbug. And then the person here, who I blanked out his name, you don't need to know who it is, at the Loma Linda Research Center, basically said, I got this information from this book here by Gary Land, Adventism in America. Let me just show you Adventism in America. There it is, and its copyright date, 1986. And here's the very information he got, a little more, right? Who went to this school? This is really because of the sanitarium in Battle Creek, opened in 1866. They expanded so rapidly, they almost went bankrupt. Now we're in the 1870s. They're short on staff. They needed trained personnel. So James White sent his sons, Edson, Willie, Merritt, and then he sent John Harvey Kellogg to R.T. Trails Hydrogenic Therapeutic College in New Jersey in 1872 for a, there it is again, quick medical degree. All right, now we know that this MD here, it's not a true doctor. It's a quick MD from this quack college. By the way, here are the receipts where I sent to Loma Linda and the signature of the Loma Linda person who signed for that. So what is this medical school? It's a kooky quack college. Look with me here. This is on the Kook Science Research, and if you don't know what a kook is, there's Merriam-Webster in the lower left-hand corner. Kook, a nut, kind of words we use here in America, is one whose ideas are eccentric, fantastic, or insane. So on the Kook Science webpage, they show us here the New York Hydrotherapeutic College, and they got an advertisement they're showing us in the middle, but look what they say about the advertisement. Read with me along here at the second arrow. So the advertisement is for a 20-week course priced at $100 for lecture fees and a $30 graduation fee, or properly qualified personnel were permitted to pay the diploma fee of $30 and not attend a single lecture. Let's look at that advertisement. There it is, the advertisement's blown up, and you can go to these lectures, or if you are determined to be properly qualified, whatever that is, just give me $30 and you get a degree. Well, here we are now in 1882. John Harvey Kellogg, the editor of the Good Health magazine, went to this Hydrogenic Therapeutic College, and he certainly had some things to say about it in this March issue of Good Health. We're going to look here on page 92, and I'm going to read to you what you see in the middle of the page because it is extremely important. Starting with the word we. We, and you already know who the we is. It's him, his brother, and Willie and Edson White. We spent a few months at Dr. Trails College, so-called, and gave the course of lectures on chemistry. At the same time, attended Dr. Trails lectures, or a part of them, never expecting to enter the profession. That was interesting. After we left the institution, Dr. Trails sent us a diploma, which was unsolicited on our part, and for which we never had an examination whatever. We were asked no questions as to the length of medical study and had no conversation with the doctor on the subject. We were, in fact, averse to receiving the diplomas, believing that it could justify, be given to persons who had never pursued the study of medicine more than 6 months, and that under not the most favorable circumstances, and some of whom were considered under legal age. Feeling thus, now pay attention here, we never made any use of the diploma received or the title supposed to be encountered by it, believing it to be an illegal and worthless document, as were others given under similar circumstances, directly or indirectly, and etc., by law. You know what John Harvey Kellogg just told us? This whole thing's a fraud, an absolute fraud. But you know what he told us? He did this in 1882. Here is James Edson's book from 1887. This book is dated 5 years after the article in which John Harvey Kellogg already told us that the school is a fraud. And here we have James Edson White using what he said was a fraud. And in the article, he said we would never use this degree. But here's Edson White putting MD behind his name. By the way, where's Ellen White when all this is going on? Like son like son, like mother. A couple frauds. Ellen White's a fraud. Edson White's a fraud. His fake medical degree, he used it just to sell books. James Edson White wanted the credentials of an MD to add credibility to this book. I looked at some of his other books, and he didn't do it. Here's another book that that when he was a publisher, he published. This is just business forms, and this one was published in 1882, the same year the Good Health magazine was published, and it just says J.E. White. Doesn't say J.E. White, M.D. I've seen a couple other J.E. White books that I haven't purchased yet. I think one's called Bumper the Rabbit, a children's book, doesn't say M.D. But this one does. Adventism has a history of inflating and misdirected credentials, as we see here in olden times, but it continues in the modern times. The Adventist Defense League is yet another example. Look with me here. Here's the Meet the Instructors page. 4 of the 7 people you see here are described as Doctor, as DR. Well, let me say this, and I already let Edgar Couto know that this was wrong. He still hasn't corrected it to this day, at least as the taping of this video. The use of doctor in each of these cases is not appropriate. But I know why he's doing it. Because he wants to make himself and the whole Adventist Defense League look super really important. Now, in most cases, so you shouldn't have doctor in the title that you saw here. In most cases, not all, but in most cases, what the actual person's degree is included in the narrative. Now, the use of doctor is appropriate when you're introducing somebody verbally. Someone can have a doctorate in education, and I will say, this is Dr. John Doe, and I'm going to introduce you to him. Right. That's a proper way to introduce a doctor. By the way, there's over 100 different doctorate degrees to a crowd, but that's not the way you write it down. Like, for example, look at this here. We have Dr. Jason Thomas, and then in the small text below, he's a doctor of music. Okay, so let's peel this onion back a little bit. So first of all, I contacted, what is a doctor of music, by the way? So I contacted his school and said, what kind of degree do you offer? And they said, well, we don't offer PhDs, but we offer a DMA, a Doctor of Musical Arts. I said, okay, great. Thank you very much. So this is how it should look. Jason Thomas, comma, DMA, Doctor of Musical Arts. Likewise, look at the next page. We have 3 more doctors, 2 of which are PhDs, and 1 of which I'll just call a mystery doctor because he doesn't tell you what it is. And it could be any one of these over 100 doctorate degrees here. What is the guidance for using doctor? Well, first, before that, let's go look at the Roy Gain, who you just saw, who's a professor at the Andrews University Theological Seminary. Do you see the word doctor here at all? No, because Andrews knows what to do. We don't put doctor in front of Roy Gain's name. We do list his education. You can see he's got a PhD. There's his doctorate degree, and it tells us what his degree is in. But you don't see Dr. Roy Gain here, and here's why you don't. Start with me at the top. When someone has earned a doctorate of philosophy or a PhD degree, that person is subsequently referred to as doctor in speech. And look at the end. However, the rules are different in written form when addressing someone who is called doctor. In formal speech, in written form, the titles doctor and PhD are not interchangeable. Read on down with me here in this article. Place the title doctor before the name of a person who is, well, a doctor. Medicine, psychology, dentistry, veterinarian. Look at the very bottom. Do not use doctor in a title or referring to someone who is solely an academic doctor or someone who is a non-medical professional. The use of doctor in the title in that written format that you saw on the Adventist Defense League is there to give his, that's when Edward Couto wants to give his instructors this gravitas and this importance. If you look at these degrees there by his list of instructors, you'll find that one of them has a degree in music, one has a degree in church history, but it doesn't look good for his credibility to show all these doctors if you actually look at what they are. It doesn't help his apologetical list here very much. So in summary, James Edson White used a quack medical degree that Kellogg recognized was a complete fraud, and evidently said James Edson thought it was a complete fraud. And you saw in the letter from the Adventist Heritage magazine that he said it was humbug. Well, it wasn't humbug enough, because years later he put MD behind his name here. We're just full of lying commandment keepers. Is a really long and storied history here in Seventh-day Adventism. So it's clear he only did this just to give himself credibility in this book. Same with modern day, the Adventist Defense League cites doctors on its instruction page for the appearance of all these credentialed instructors, when they shouldn't use the term doctor. Doctor in a person's title is for people in the medical field, not academic doctoral type degrees. And degrees, church history, and music are all fine in their respective fields, but I don't think it lends him a lot of credibility for his so-called list of doctors, instructors. So one thing, I've been on this road for Adventism now just a little over 5 years, engaging and studying Adventists. And something I've noticed, the character of Adventism is deception and dishonesty, as you just saw here. We see deception and dishonesty starting with the second son of James and Ellen White, Edson White, going down to modern day, the Adventist Defense League instructor page, trying to make themselves look really important and giving themselves gravitas when it's actual deception. Seventh-day Adventism is deception.